Hello.
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 I'm Mark.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Luke.
And this is...
Finish Big. I'm sorry. Finish Big.
Yes, we are listening our way through all of Big Finish in order. Making our way through.
Slowly.
Well, bit by bit.
But surely. But with special help this week.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes, we are joined by Luke Malloy.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Excuse me, before we start anything here, I need to ask Mr. Luke Malloy, what is your Big Finish pedigree? I mean, are you worthy of this podcast? Tell me, you and Big Finish, what's your relationship?
Yeah, I've got 3 bookshelves worth of Big Finish.
Oh, Jesus.
Does that qualify?
That's nearly a
Absolutely.
second mortgage, yeah.
I think a big yeah, true. I think a big difference between me and you two might be I'm a lot more familiar with the box set era of just everything. So your Eighth Doctors and your War Doctors and all that sort of stuff, and not too familiar with some of the main range stuff, especially Sylvester McCoy. I've never really dived into that at all.
That's fine.
So are you trying to tell me
you're not missing
you've
anything?
never heard Sophie Aldred on
Oh,
audio?
God. Already Sophie Aldred hates.
I think maybe only in Zagreus.
Oh,
That's not a good example.
or, what does she do in Zagreus?
Isn't she a duck or something? Or a gazelle?
She's always a duck, I'm telling you.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's oral torture, I tell you, listening to her. He put on a short trips the other day, just her talking for an hour.
Anyway,
Oh.
This is not about Sophie Aldred
Sorry,
this
yeah.
time, for once. We are talking about the Paul McGann stories. So, Luke, you've heard the Paul McGann sets.
Yes, I have. This is my second time listening to these 3. It was only a year or 2 ago that I did it all from beginning, from Storm Warning to like Divergence and everything. But I've listened to like Dark Eyes a fair few times, and sort of that era onwards. It was interesting, actually. I've changed opinion on one of these 3 stories quite significantly. So
Ooh.
we might have a doco how
I hope it was in the right direction.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's... Oh.
And then the other 2 stayed pretty much what I thought they were going to. So, yeah,
How
we'll go into.
intriguing.
Mm.
Well, we'll unpick that then.
Well, this is the second half of the series that we're doing. So the stories we're talking about today are Embrace the Darkness.
Your eyes. You've lost your eyes.
Time of the Daleks.
It's wasted on the rabble. Pearls before swine. That is why Shakespeare must die.
And Neverland.
God, I'm going to meet the Time Lords. Can't wait to see Gallifrey.
I love that bit.
Me too.
Yeah, so previously we did Invaders from Mars, Chimes of Midnight, and Seasons of Fear.
Previously on Doctor Who.
Yeah. You see that in your Don Warrington voice.
Sorry. Previously on... I'm not saying exactly the same.
So they're a mixed bag for us, weren't they? Well, Invaders from Mars was our least favourite.
Chimes of Midnight is an absolute classic.
Obviously, Chimes of Midnight.
And Seasons of Fear was very good as well.
Yeah.
Well, can we ask Luke what he thought of those 3 stories?
Yeah.
Luke, what did you think of those 3 stories?
Yeah, I've not heard your podcast isn't out yet, isn't
Yeah,
it?
he
But
did it yet. He's behind.
I pretty much agree with what you've said there. I'm pushed to remember much about Invaders of Mars, actually, apart from bad American accents and it being a bit long. But I think using the Orson Welles' radio broadcast to sort of... Did they use it to dispel the bad guys?
Do you know what? I probably can't tell you now.
It's very funny because aliens come down during the War of the Worlds broadcast, right? And they want their technology back. So they use the War of the Worlds broadcast to pretend that there's already an alien invasion in progress. So those aliens bugger off.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think just overall it's a bit long and naff. The cover's really iconic, though.
It's
the
a
cover
great
stays
cover.
in my head for some
Yeah,
reason.
it's brilliant.
It's got a very starry cast, we were saying. Jessica Hines, Simon Pegg, you know?
Really?
Yeah. All doing dreadful comedy accents.
Chimes of Midnight is annoyingly like iconic for a reason. It's I can't be contrarian about it. I've heard it a few times. It's brilliant. Each episode takes you in a new direction. It keeps you guessing. Because like part one's like a murder mystery, and then you have like an anti-murder mystery for part two, and then there's like a puzzle box, and then it's like a big murder house at the end, isn't it? It's got that sort of Doctor's Wife house feel about the villain. And Rob Sheeran's just a bloody great writer.
He's a genius, isn't he?
He is just.
Are you dead, Luke, or are you alive? Am I dead, or am I alive? Oh,
it's just great, and like, Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without.
It's funny, that is the Big Finish story, isn't it?
Yeah, and
it would appear that Mrs. Baddeley has stuffed herself to death with her own plum pudding.
And I do agree with it. I would put the One Doctor above it, though. Just going to say.
Yes, so I'm getting there. For listeners, we were just talking before, and I'm listening to Colin Baker's main range in order, and I am just up to the One Doctor, which got a glowing review on Finish Big.
But also, you do need to remember you got a life, so you also need to spend money on other things. Just Big Fin, It's very expensive. Mind you, those early ones are quite cheap now, aren't they? They're sort of $2.99.
I mean, these ones are on Spotify for free anyway. The first 50.
Well, what are you waiting for?
Seasons, from what I remember doing it the first time, was the unexpected highlight, I thought. And it's just like dancing about in space and time. The twist at the end of part 3 knocked me for 6 the first time.
Yes.
I hadn't got any like inkling, or I know there's a bit of foreshadowing there if you know, but like first time I had no inkling of it, and I hadn't heard the rumours of it. Yeah, it's great, and I know there's that bit that ties in with Time of the Daleks, which we're doing now. But I feel like when I listened, the last Finish Big I listened to, you were saying, "Oh, we're in for like the best run of, all the adventures that happens on Big Finish." These like 6 stories these sort of remind me of season 10, series 10 of Capaldi. Is that like the vibe is that it feels great and that everyone loves it, but when you actually listen or watch them individually, they're just a bit. Well, no, some of them are good, but some of them are just a bit meh.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
I think that's spot on.
But I think it's the whole Charlie arc thing.
It's exciting, isn't
brilliant
it?
and exciting. But then,
this is the one difference as well, is you listen to this as it came out, and it was new Doctor Who, and there's such a difference in that, because you're always going to take yourself back to that first
Are you
time.
saying we're old?
Yeah. But like for me, it's just, especially when you listen to Big Finish all the time, it's another story from the past. You get familiar with it. It doesn't have that impact that it would if it was like the new, but like even the new ones that come out now on Big Finish are they feel like a little bit like the Once and Future one that came out. I sort of was excited for that. But if it was like 2 years down the line and I bought it, I was going to listen to it, you wouldn't have that excitement for it.
But it's like all new. The sort of multi-Doctor stuff, it's so old hat now, isn't it? It's been done to death. But like this was the first time they'd done anything like this, like a long arc and giving a companion focus like this. So there was sort of like a frisson sort of that was behind the actual stories that were being told. In fact, what it reminds me of? Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who.
Yes,
right?
No, it does.
It is. Yeah,
you know what? There's a lot of shit in there, but the twists and turns are quite exciting. The structure of the season's pretty good.
Yeah, and it's all around like time and a companion, so it's quite Amy Pondy, series 5 in that way. I quite like series like that where they have a vibe about them. I think that's almost harder to get than just a run of good stories. Season 19 sort of has that. I don't know why. I always think season 19 has this fresh, lovely vibe of like 4 happy friends traveling the universe. When you watch them and they all hate each other and the stories are shit.
And it's 4 to Doomsday and Time Flight. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just strange, isn't it? Sometimes you just get a good feeling. But
I'll tell you what it is, though. It's especially with the latter half of the season, because I think probably Embrace the Darkness and Time of the Daleks are quite flawed in many ways. They're good stories to talk about.
Yes, they are juicy, especially Neverland, actually.
Yeah.
It's really juicy.
And we love a bit of juice here on Finished Big.
Well, so
Can I just say one thing?
yeah.
I'd just like to make an apology. I just want to apologise to you, Luke, because I did say, in fact, in the last episode that you were the only heterosexual man that was willing to masturbate Paul McGann, but you love him so much. Can you confirm if this is true or not?
Valid. We'll say valid.
Yeah. Okay, then I'm no longer apologising.
No, don't apologise.
But you love him, didn't you?
Yeah, I think he's easily the best audio doctor. I think he's just. I'm sorry, I know you're the big Colin Baker fan.
It is very close, though, for me.
It's just sort of romantic voice. Out of them all, he can take me away. Plus, he's not having to recreate anything he did on screen. So you've never got that conflict of like, oh, he doesn't sound like there, or where does he fit there? Paul McGann is always new on audio, isn't he? So it's always a bit more excited. But it's not just that. I think he is as well. Just got the best voice to listen to.
agreed. Yeah, he's my favourite.
Sexy as hell as well.
Even now.
Especially now.
He's like...
He's aging
He's
like
not
a
aged
fine
at all.
wine,
He's
isn't he?
not
No.
aged at all.
Yeah,
Sexy as
I hope
hell.
he's tuning into this episode. Jesus. His head's pretty massive.
Should we talk about the first story then? And I shall do
have
the
to.
facts. Let's do it. Reminding us all to go to Specsavers, Embrace the Darkness was released in April 2002, starring Paul McGann and India Fisher, featuring Nicola Boyce, Lee Moore, and Mark McDonnell. This was written by Nick Briggs, directed by Nick Briggs, with music by Jim Mortimer.
Wasn't the music good? Sorry, I know that brain.
Well, it's a Nicholas. Well, obviously, it's got Nicholas Briggs' name. And what did he write last? Sword of Orion? Did he do last?
Oh,
And we were not
boring.
fans of that. I was
No.
thinking, is this going to be another sort of kind of, soldiers or scientists in space being trying to be like cool dialogue, but it's not, because you just can't write that kind of thing. I don't. It's had a different vibe to this. I think
This is better than
it
Sword of
definitely
Orion.
is better than Sword of Orion.
Yeah?
Luke is unconvinced.
Do you know, I'm not the biggest Nick Briggs hater, really. I think he's
Well, you
got as
should
much...
be. All right,
We are particularly harsh, but
He's got so much output, and like, I think 30% of it is really good.
30%, did you say?
Yeah,
Well, that's
25.
way below half.
right.
Given that he's brought out 100 releases, that's only 30
No, but I'm not
releases
saying
that
I'm
are
not
any
saying
good.
good. I'm saying like really good. Like
Go on, can you
I would
name
say-
and shame then? Come on. What's really good?
Dark Eyes 1 is I
of
really
course.
really love Dark Eyes 1,
Get
and he
back
wrote
in your tardy
all of
box.
that, I think. And Creatures of Beauty, that's an
That's a
amazing
classic.
piece of work.
Patient Zero is fantastic, I think.
I haven't got the
Oh, okay, it's really good. And Blue Forgotten Planet, actually. Oh, To the Deaf and Lucy Miller.
yes,
There
and
we go.
that.
That's
Yeah.
great. But then let's remember the 500 Fourth Doctor adventures that he's done that we've all
Yeah,
forgotten
the
about.
Excellence.
Energy of the Daleks. Was it Zygon Hunt?
Oh,
Oh yeah, Zygon Hunt was not.
Energy of the Daleks.
What was that
And
even
that got a
about?
vinyl release.
This, he's trying to do something. I think he said he wanted something that would only work on audio, and I think he does try and create an atmosphere. Well, it's certainly in part one. Part one is the best episode of this. I feel.
See, I really struggle with part 1 of this.
Really?
I know it was the robot.
Oh, sorry.
Explain your presence in the Sumerian system.
Educational. The doctor wanted to know what happened to the sun. That's right, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes, that's right. Is that allowed? Did I say something wrong?
He seems to be thinking about it. Rescue operational security. Are you on a rescue mission? Who are you rescuing?
What does that mean?
Biohazard alert. Your cellular analysis has been assimilated.
We're not a biological hazard. Your analysis must be incorrect.
Rechecking. There is no mistake. Life form identified as Doctor. Humanoid, myocardial, unknown species, no threat. Life form identified as Charlie. Humanoid, Terran origin. Life form contains mutant cellular cultures and
Inimical?
Mutant what? I hope you're not talking about me.
I don't understand.
Life form must be terminated.
What?
I really hated the robot's
Oh, I
voice.
love that robot.
I know. Well, I don't know, but I really wound me up the wrong way. But I thought this had a terrible opening. It just didn't bring me in at all. Then weirdly, sort of got sucked in the middle around like part 3, and then the ending was just really odd as well.
We have got to talk about that ending. I still can't believe that we've gone through this entire suspenseful thing of people losing their eyes, which is a great horror idea.
Yes.
Only for them to be told, actually, we're healers all along, and then to be introduced to this race of terrifying, horrible people that are going to come along and kill everybody. And actually, no, it's just the same people as the healers. And we were just looking for more people of our own kind. I'm like, what?
I didn't mind that they were. I thought the healers thing was quite cool. Nice little spin. I just thought it was all resolved so quickly. This explanation of, they're actually us, but like millions of years they've come back to visit and they're actually fine, and then they just disappear again. It all happened in the space of about 2 minutes. It really threw me.
Well, I don't think there's enough story for 4 episodes.
No,
in
this would be a 1 hour release now.
Yes,
if they were doing it.
That would work really well. I first listened to this in the dark. I remember listening to part 1 in pitch black. Maybe that's why I really like part 1, because just that noise of the, when they, what are they called? Sumerians make that sort of high pitch kind of noise, and the voice and everything.
Embrace.
I think that's quite effective. And he's keeping it's small cast in just a couple of locations, which I kind of like. I like that setup. But there's just not enough story for me after part 1, and then it's just more robot chat. I agree, the robot just goes on too much. Rossum is just...
I can tell you a fascinating trivia fact about the cast, because it was originally double the size. It was about 8 people, and Briggs was like, "Oh shit, no, Gary's never gonna let me get away with this." So what he did was he took 4 characters and created Rossum out of those 4 characters, a device that could do all the roles that those characters were doing. So they all sort of had scientific roles, and the robot took all the roles of them. So that's why the robot's so prominent. He's playing 4 parts.
Yeah, it's just the voice effect on it. It just actually wound me up.
Well, the chat between the Doctor and the computer, it was like the chat between him and the computer in Sharda, I thought. Trying to explain.
I really liked all that
But
stuff.
it just went on too long. There was just too much of it.
And I just think the whole thing about the lights going out, them losing their eyes, sort of stumbling about in the dark, that's just classic Doctor Who stuff,
So, I think when I listened to this the first time, that cliffhanger at the end of part 1 was the only thing I remembered going into this. That did stand out. It is a really good moment because you're not too sure what's going on, and Charlie's getting closer, and it's you're left with quite a horrifying image, aren't you, of a person with no eyes. That is really good.
But those, what is it? What's her name?
Orlenza.
And that. She's all right to begin with. Then she just turns into a bit of a moody bitch. She loses her eyesight, doesn't she?
Inconsistent characterisation, and then there is.
And then Charlie
I don't think you guys are taking me seriously. Yeah. Why don't you shut up, Charlie? Could you go, little baby? I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this character?
Yeah, it's wild. She meanders all over the place. She goes from annoying and then to quite funny and then to a bitch, and then you just think, what is going on?
And then she's the one waving the flag for these people. But do you know what? This is, we've talked about this before. The one thing Nick Briggs, well, there's many things he can't do, but the one thing he definitely can't do is fucking banter. And those scenes at the beginning where they're going, "We love you all," and so, "Yes, we do." I was like, oh, crap. Has he actually had a conversation with a friend?
That is the worst. That is the worst moment.
Agonising.
Yeah, I mean, I liked I had this nice image of the Sumerians. They seem quite creepy in my head. They're like glowing white and small and sort of thin, tenderly things.
Well, that's the good thing about everyone being blind. Everyone has to explain. The Doctor has to explain what they look like to everyone. So
did you not get when they were talking about sort of grey little aliens, little baby?
Yeah,
were you not seeing those aliens from Galaxy Quest that are down on the planet? Do you remember those little aliens?
I've not seen Galaxy Quest.
Do you remember them?
Well, they're just like Roswell aliens, aren't they? Like grey.
That's what I was seeing.
Grey things, aren't they? Yeah.
They were a little bit, like in my head, they're a little bit Roswell, but white.
Do you know what was a great idea, I thought, was the mystery as to why the sun went out. That was a good hook into the story for me. I was like, okay, let's see what the answer to this is. And then the answer came, and actually it wasn't shit, which surprised me. It was, they turned the sun out because it would stop solar ships coming and people coming to attack them. That makes sense.
Yes, I thought that was really good, because that's around the sort of part 3, part 4 bit. And that's what really sort of started to bring me back in. So I thought that's a genuinely good bit of storytelling. No?
Well, no, I was more sort of started off quite invested, and then as it went on, I was just like, they're just wandering around in the dark a lot and chatting, and I lost interest as it went on, I think.
Well,
I think the pace just really varied all over the shop, didn't it? It's really quick and then it's really slow. Then she's chatting for about 5 minutes about she killed someone with a spanner.
Oh yeah, actually, I like that bit.
What? No,
I just hit him or something.
that was so weird.
What's that about?
If I was working with someone, they went, "Oh yeah, and I bludgeoned someone to death with a spanner." I'd be like, get me out of here now.
Yeah.
But then there's a nice bit nearer the end with Charlie and the Doctor, where the Doctor goes off, and then she's like, "No, don't you dare go and sacrifice yourself."
Oh, I
yeah.
quite like that bit as well. Yeah,
I like that.
She goes, "Well, thank you very much."
I think when you keep them separate, it's just not as good, is it? They're so good together.
Yeah.
Which suffers.
And that was what we said about Seasons of Fear. There's the whole story there together throughout.
And in Sword of Orion, it's the same. They're separated on the ship, aren't they? For quite a lot of the
I
time,
don't
and she's
remember
off with the
anything
other guy.
about that.
It's pretty much the same, yeah.
I mean, the music's come on, because the music is sort of was like a pneumatic drill going through my head. Dreadful. I have got some fascinating tidbits to tell you both.
Here we go, bring them out.
Like to hear. So, where do you imagine this one was recorded in the season, in the running order?
Oh, second maybe?
Last. This was the last story of the second season to be recorded. And by all accounts, Paul McGann was very tired at this point. Apparently, he was complaining. He was that he was being worked too hard. That he wasn't comfortable with the long speeches in the script. And apparently, he was just messing about and sort of murmuring behind the backs of the director. Apparently, he was being a bit of an arse.
Oh no! I didn't pick up on any of that.
But what Briggs says, he's got this natural charisma in that you just can't tell. In fact, do you know, Jim Mortimer recorded all of Paul McGann's bits in the green room, and some of those bits were included in the play because that's where he was being naturally funny. So non-scripted scenes and non-scripted dialogue is in here. Well, I don't know. It doesn't say.
What's he talking about? He's not saying stuff about Embrace the Darkness in the green room, is he? He's not like, I've got to do this. Like, he's been talking about the food or something.
I will tell you what Nick Briggs writes in the book, all right? Apparently, it was one of the worst weeks of Nick Briggs' life. So apparently, the whole thing was just a misery to record. The woman who played Olenza and the fella from Dalek Empire were involved in a car accident on the way to the studio.
Oh, my God.
And poor Nick Briggs had a stinking cold, so he weren't even allowed to be anywhere near the actors. So he had to do it all via telephone. Oh. So apparently the whole experience was terrible. And to their credit...
Nick Briggs the robot?
I'm not sure.
No, I think there is somebody playing the robot. Nick Briggs is the little creatures.
Oh.
And do you want to know what the most telling fact is? This is the only script that Gary Russell didn't see before it hit the studio. Otherwise, it may not have been made. And Jim Mortimer and Nick Briggs. I think the sound design on this was really strong. And that's Jim Mortimer doing that. And apparently there was loads of creative tension. Nick Briggs is quoted here as saying... he thought the music was repetitive and he kept making him change it. And Jim Mortimer said to Nick Briggs, you know, you literally do not understand what you have written here. I will translate this for you. So Briggs has a habit of having a bit of creative tension with people.
Yeah, it makes sense really, doesn't it? If it's slowly ascended up the ranks of Big Finish because he's just trying to get his hands, his grubby mitts on everything.
and he's succeeded as well.
It's not like terrible. It's not one that a lot of people talk about or recommend.
I wouldn't want to go back to it. I didn't hate it. I think whoever said it summed it up best with it would just be a 1 hour story now. You cut out most of part 2 and most of part 3.
There's not enough plot, is there? Oh, there's not enough plot for
They're
the
just
hour and a half.
wandering about the spaceship. I was quite confused as well about sort of who was on this ship, and then there was a small ship, and then they were on their ship. Right at the beginning, it took me a while to figure out where about everyone was.
Because Charlie goes down, they're up with the computer, and then she goes down on her own to the I don't know where that is. It was just down in my just somewhere dark.
It's probably quite telling that the most exciting scene in the entire story is the war TARDISes appearing at the beginning to dog the Doctor, and then the story begins after that. I do like in every single story, though, they're not letting you forget the arc.
There's something there in the background.
So there's always a reference.
It's a sort of, if it was on TV, you'd be like, oh, it doesn't really belong here. But you know that whoever's listening to this is getting the season and is listening and is a Doctor Who fan. So it works perfectly fine. It's like, ooh.
I mean, it's worth noting as well that, when the new series came back and they started doing season-long arcs, and when Rusty Davies lent into that whole idea of the consequences of Rose being a companion, but this actually was all done before with Charlie on Big Finish. So we were all praising it as being, massively innovative and experimental. But actually, Gary Russell got there first.
Yeah.
Sorry, Russell.
But yeah, weirdly, you've got that sort of innovative, groundbreaking arc, and then like the part 1 of this is just like the Wheel in Space episode 1. It's just about as regressive.
It's quite similar, isn't it? They just go around talking to a robot.
Well, at least Sophie Eldra's not in it.
Yes, we can at least say that. Yes.
Doctor, what's this metal meanie doing?
Oh God!
Yes, you've got no eyes.
How you can burn eyes out and then give them back? That was a bit weird, but I'll roll with it.
The cliffhanger's good though.
It is a great cliffhanger.
Yeah, I wouldn't swap it.
Have they done any other sort of stories where characters are like completely blind for just thinking for all the audience?
Blind, not all.
Yeah.
Look at me.
It didn't work there either, really, did it?
For an audio, it's kind of perfect. But I can't think of any other stories that they've done.
Have you heard Whispers of Terror? The early Colin Baker one. There was a blind character in that who was deliberately blind to keep a twist hidden, which I thought was quite clever. They do occasionally they find these really clever ways to tell stories on audio, you know, and that's one of the techniques they can use. Well, I don't think we can say, but it has answered one question though, doesn't it? Now we know which one Lou's changed his mind on.
Right.
It's got to be Time with the Daleks, because I'm sure you already like Neverland. Well. I'm sure. Oh my God.
Well, should we go on to the next story?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Not about the universe's most evil creatures growing their own seasoning. Time of the Daleks was released in May 2002. Guest starring Dot Smith, Nicola Boyce, and Mark McDonnell. It's Dot Smith, isn't it?
Why do you say Dot Smith like you can't believe that's someone's name? Dot Smith?
I was like, is that his name? This was written by Justin Richards, directed by Nicholas Briggs, with music by Nicholas Briggs.
He's busy. Hey. Isn't he busy?
He's very busy, isn't he? Yeah, no wonder he's got a cold. Yeah. Well,
I think we should take it over to our guest for this one.
Oh, no. I mean, I really struggled again with this. Just messy, boring, boggy, never quite clear where you're meant to be or what's going on. Why is Mark looking like that?
No, I'm sort of agreeing. The
Doctor doesn't do it. The Daleks just let the Doctor sort of walk about for 4 parts, like leisurely do nothing. He's always just tasked with fixing things around. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know what they're even trying to do. The Doctor doesn't do anything. The Shakespeare concept seems quite cool. The Daleks and Shakespeare and Daleks quoting Shakespeare, that's quite a nice concept, but Shakespeare's not really got anything to do with this by the end of it. And he's just a I mean, like, it's just a weird boy in the background. But that's just really.
Did you guess? I knew straight away. The second that kid came along going, Mistress, doth want to... I was like, he's talking like Shakespeare. That kid is Shakespeare.
I didn't guess
Sometimes Big Finish is unclear, and you can you give it another go, and you feel right. You should give it another go, and it'll work out. But this just wasn't one of those. I mean, I've given it another go, but it was just a load of chatting about the master clock, wasn't it?
I think this is the first time I've actually listened to it all the way through properly and concentrated, and I still didn't
like
really
a
get
nice
it.
linear plot. This is as far from a nice linear plot than you could ever
I've never
get.
liked this one, so I wasn't looking forward to going back to this.
And
I sort of agree. Like they did with, like, you know, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. It's an epic title. Let's make a story about it. It's like Daleks speaking Shakespeare.
'Tis now the very witching time of night,
Where are you going?
I need to think.
when churchyards yawn,
Keep an eye on things,
and
Johnny.
hell itself breathes out contagion to this
I
world.
have to work out what's going on. This is why we're here, Charlie.
Now could I drink hot blood?
In 1 hour, somehow we face the beginning of the end of the world.
Why are you so worried? It's not like these Daleks are going around killing anyone.
Oh, it isn't, and that's what worries me most.
I don't know. I just didn't like the story, and I didn't.
There's nothing there, though.
There's nothing else.
It's not about Daleks and Shakespeare. It's just not. It's a bit Resurrection of the Daleks-y, where there's about 10 different plots going on. They want to blow up the universe to real time, and then they want to get a new pilot, and then they're using Charlie to do it all over again, and then they're suddenly stuck in a time well or whatever.
And that time, the time machine thing with the mirrors and the clocks, it's all a bit Evil of the Daleks.
Yeah,
to me, there's a lot of Evil of the Daleks.
In fact, he talks a lot about Evil of the Daleks in the Inside Story.
But I mean, it should be exciting because it's the first time we've got the Eighth Doctor and the Daleks. So I'm glad there is a Dalek story in this season, but it just doesn't do anything apart from, okay, there's talking Shakespeare, and at this point in time, they've not really used the Daleks very much. We haven't had all of the new series Daleks acting out of character or doing different things. So this is one of those early examples of them doing that, but it's still not enough to make the story particularly interesting.
Oh, I'm going to disagree with both of you.
No,
I don't think this is great. I do think this was a much better listen than when I did it for my Doctor Who reviews. It is messy and it is overly complicated, but I think there's enough here that I can't write it off completely. I think the idea of the time machine made out of clocks and mirrors is just enticing, whether it's from Evil of the Daleks or whether it's here. It's very Doctor Who. I think that the fact that it's a circular story, that where we start and where we end is a complete time paradox loop, is really, really clever. Daleks quoting Shakespeare is a fun idea, I think, and it's doing something different. We're hearing that sort of poetic language come out of those crazy voices. That's a unique thing we're doing with the Daleks, and after so many Dalek stories, that's quite refreshing.
that's the bit of a clash for me, though. I think you've got this really serious time travel-y paradoxy thing going on, and you've got this really fun idea of the Daleks quoting Shakespeare.
Well, do you think it should have been just a bit more like a comedy?
Maybe a bit more fun, especially with Neverland coming after it and Embrace the Darkness being before it.
I know, weirdly enough, they do the comedy in Zagreus, and it's
But I can imagine,
agonising.
I can imagine back then that they wouldn't have wanted a comical Dalek episode, especially not in the great Paul McGann main range stories.
I think the biggest problem here is none of the secondary characters, apart from Lehman, who I really liked.
I like Lehman.
Despotic, and it was originally supposed to be a bloke playing the part, and it was written for a bloke, and then Nick Briggs cast Dot Smith, who Mark can't believe that's her name. I also really liked the bit at the end where they mutate Liam when they turn on her, put her in a Dalek. That was really great. Yeah. I like the fact that it's Charlie that's causing time to go out of wonk. So again, we're still not forgetting about the arc. And I did think there were some good scenes in here. There was a great bit where all the mirrors turned to a future where the Daleks were in control. So it kind of showed you the stakes. for 2 episodes, I was really confused as to what everybody was doing. And then in episode 3, it made it explicitly clear Learman wants to kill Shakespeare and be the only person to have his knowledge. So suddenly that all made sense. And that the Daleks were going through all this rigmarole to become the Masters of Time, which is something I thought they'd already mastered.
But why is everyone so bothered about Shakespeare?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
like,
as a concept.
why?
Well, that was
They're
all
like talking like he's the most important person ever.
Yeah, but
And
the
it's-
Doctor says at the end, it didn't really have much to do with Shakespeare. And that just sort of summed it up, because he just didn't have much to do with Shakespeare. He was like, oh, Shakespeare's just a byproduct of the fact that Daleks were going to become the Masters of Time.
It was just all like a quirky idea, wasn't it? But like I said
it's
to
because
you...
that rebel woman took the boy.
Yeah.
That's why everyone forgot him, yeah. And
Yeah.
in Invaders of Mars, Orson Welles didn't remember a Shakespeare quote, did he?
No, that
so
was-
it's
yeah,
going
that was
right back to that
interesting.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And there's a bit, isn't there, where the Dalek goes through to Roman times, and that
Seasons of
ties
Fear.
into Seasons of Fear, yeah. But I think what you're in part 2, what you're talking about, that's where I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
There was
I seem
Charlie
to...
and the Renegade are just bouncing between times, and everyone's talking about the Master Clock.
And you're right about the Daleks just wandering around. Everyone does seem to be able to go wherever they want. I was like, have they invaded? Have they taken over? Or are they just there? Like, it wasn't really... They weren't like prisoners all the time, or sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. And it was like, well, where is everyone? What are they?
And like, they seem to be invited, and they're helping her with the time travel experiments, but then they exterminate the professor 10 minutes in, but then they just be in everyone's breath. I just couldn't get my head around what it was meant to be.
Didn't you love the Blue Peter bit, though, where they showed you how to make a time travel portal device out of a tea tray and some tin foil?
Oh, the tin foil stuff. Really well. I was like, that is not a mirror. Tin foil.
I hated
way.
I don't think that would work,
That is not going to work. No.
I said to Mark after we listened to episode 1, I said my biggest problem with this is you know, like when you watch a Doctor Who story like Vengeance on Varos or something like that, and you say all the dialogues are very Shakespearean, you know, because everyone's proclaiming like they're on the stage. And then when you actually have characters in a Doctor Who story quoting Shakespearean dialogue all the time, it's fucking agonising. And you're like, nobody would ever talk like this, you know? And she's going, oh, doth and pith, you know, and all of this. I'm like, okay, it's very odd.
I just think I struggle with a lot of audio stories where people just leisurely walk around, and like Big Finish gets this reputation of like, oh, it's so much better than the TV show, and like, it's just not for this reason. You would never get this on the TV because you couldn't. As you said, it's meant to be Paul McGann versus the Daleks for the first time, and they almost don't acknowledge each other for a bit. They're just sort of walking around. Oh, will you help us with this? Yeah. Oh, go on, help. Give us a hand with this. Okay. And it just is so strange.
Do you know the bit where she goes, oh, they're Shakespearean scholars, the Daleks. I just wanted Paul McGann to go, fuck's sake, I'm out. All right? You people are so stupid. Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry we've made you listen to 2 stories you've really despised so far.
Have you got some facts on this
I do.
one?
Yeah, I do. Justin Richards is quoted as saying, before he was a Doctor Who fan, he was a Dalek fan. And so this was his first chance to write a proper Dalek story. He was going to do it for BBC Books, but they built an entire massive arc on BBC Books around the Daleks, and then Terry Nation Estate took away the rights at the last minute. That was a bit unfortunate. The kitchen boy character was always there, but it was only at the last minute that he was turned into Shakespeare.
Isn't that like a big part of the plot, though?
Oh, apparently not.
Like, what if they've just thought that up as like, what was the actual plot?
Don't
then?
take it up with me. Take it up with Justin Richards. Oh, listen to you. I love this one, the pair of you. Loads of adjustments to the story were made during production just to try and make it make sense.
Surely it made less sense with adjustments.
And then Justin Richards is quoted as saying, you're just putting back in all the bits that Garrett Russell made me take out. So I think
I looked on the wiki for the quiz question that's coming later, just to like have a look at the time zones that are visited, and there's about 12. And when I was listed, I thought there was 4. So that just shows how much went over my head.
I thought I just went back once to and then back again. No, No wonder Paul McGann was getting in a mood.
Well, this was the second to last story. I think
building up to this.
The Nicholas Briggs ones were the last ones done. I think the Mark Gatiss one was first, then all the Gary Russell ones, then the two Nicholas Briggs ones were done last. And apparently he was only available due to scheduling problems for a single day of the 2-day recording. And he was in every single scene of that day. And by the end of the day, he was no longer capable of speech. So I don't know if you could tell that in his performance, but he was exhausted by the end of that day because he had to do the whole lot. God bless him.
That's a lot.
My favourite quote comes from Justin Richards, who is very magnanimous about this story. He says it's his personal favourite of the ones he's written, and he's not really. I think he's a good novel writer, but I don't really think audio is.
I agree totally. I think on the whole he's very a reliable study writer. He's never going to blow your socks off, but it's never bad.
Is he like the Mark Gatiss from the TV series of?
I don't know. I'm not the biggest Gatiss fan.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's reliable.
He's reliable.
But Justin Richards is quoted here as saying, you can't please everybody. Some people dislike things just for the sake of it. But if you're a writer and you put things in the public domain, you just have to accept that there will be criticism. And I only bring that up because we've had a quote in a previous episode where Nicholas Briggs basically said, anyone who doesn't like my work is wrong. And I feel like that is the better approach. Justin Richards' approach is the better approach to have.
Oh, did you see the what was the prequel to Dalek Universe?
Oh,
that one on X.
the one with the Fourth Doctor.
It got savage, didn't it?
Someone wrote a not even that bad review, and he lost his temper on Facebook with this comment. I did
hear about that, and then that had a worse reaction than the review.
Yeah, definitely. Justin Richards, he wrote quite a bit of Jago and Lightfoot audios.
Of course he did, and some good ones as well.
Yeah, but I think by the time you've got onto like series 5, 6, you realise that it's always that sort of standard template of a story. It never structurally doesn't do anything different.
It's not like sort of Matthew Sweet in there, is it, or someone like that? You know.
No, and even like we're talking about Nick Briggs, he will vary it up and try things, even if it doesn't totally come off. I feel like Justin Richards has probably wrote 100 Doctor Who stories, and 98 of them follow quite a similar pattern.
Do you know
this is probably one of the only ones that doesn't?
That sort of overly complicated plotting, though, he writes really clever books, and I think in prose it comes across a lot better because you take your time reading a book, you know, and you sort of puzzle it out as you go along. Stuff like Time Zero and things like that.
I think of him more as a book writer.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I do as well. When I was like younger, I used to get the new series Adventures. They were like perfect at my age. And his ones were the ones that I used to really enjoy.
Do you remember the Resurrection Casket, which was basically
amazing.
Like
the end and
Treasure Island, that Disney film, wasn't it?
Treasure Planet.
Huh?
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet, yeah. It was like pirates in space, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ending, probably a very generic sci-fi idea now, but when I was like 9, I was like, what?
Oh no, we've come in to talk about Time of the Daleks. We've ended up talking about... what was that book called again?
The Resurrection Casket.
Thank you.
But I think one last point really for me is you've got Daleks quoting Shakespeare, and yet there's still so much terrible Dalek dialogue of just them screaming "you will be exterminated" about 10 times.
I'm not a fan of that. All that whole opening bit, I was just like, can we just get to the actual story? All that Dalek stuff. I'm like,
the beginning
whatever.
bit,
Okay, Daleks are in trouble, whatever. Next,
Very
come
tiresome.
on. Yeah.
The thing was, I remembered that they said, "We will await rescue" at the end of that scene. So I kept waiting for that line. I'm going, oh, come on. It's going to come in a minute.
But we also have a bit of Rassilon quoting Shakespeare at the beginning as well.
Oh,
All we don't know is Rassilon yet. We don't know that voice. And we did hear that voice in Seasons of Fear, I think.
He was narrating the story of Seasons of Fear too.
Yeah. And then there's a bit of something there, but he's not at the end, is he? In the time loop bit, it's
no.
He says Yeah, it's only in the
To be
beginning.
honest, I'm very confused
And that
with
is a
how
bit confusing.
Rassilon is in this entire season. Even in Neverland.
No, it's in Seasons of Fear, because in Neverland, that bit where right at the end, where the Doctor's like, "This is what happened," he's explaining it to Rassilon, isn't he? He's like, "Let me tell you the story of everything."
Yeah,
I was on the right one,
is
and
in the
then
Matrix, isn't he?
Well, wherever when when he's talking to the Doctor right at the end,
Yeah.
he's like, "Let me tell you what's happened," and then that's why you get the Doctor narrating to him in Seasons of Fear.
So what? He stood there and narrated the entire season.
They've listened to the series of Big Finish together. At the
Just
end.
think, we could have just
That's
had
why-
the Paul McGann narrated version
why
of
he's
Embrace
narrating.
the Darkness and Time of the Daleks.
Yeah,
that would have been much
narrated the whole
better.
lot.
The
But that-
short trip.
Yeah, that's what he's saying about. He's telling Rassilon about it in Seasons of
That
Fear.
might have even made sense, that version of Time
that
of the
does make
Daleks.
sense, yeah.
Okay, shall we go on to the next story?
Ooh, yes.
Here we go. This is the
Can't remember.
okay. Predating Martin Bashir's visit, Neverland was released in July 2002. Guest starring Lala Ward, Don Warrington, and Anthony Keach. It was written by Alan Barnes, directed by Gary Russell, with music by Nick Briggs.
Do you not think, like, he said Dot Smith's name, like, he couldn't believe someone would be called Dot Smith, but he said Anthony Keach's name, like, what a name. Anthony Keach!
It's
I said
because
quiche.
it's because I write all this down and I cannot read my own writing back. That is the problem. So I'm sort of deciphering it as I read.
What it sounds like on the episode is you're halfway through a sentence and you're not
Yeah, I know, you
entirely
always
sure
say that.
how it's going to end.
Okay, well, this is the epic finale. 2 sort of hour and 10-minute episodes. And I mean, I had no idea where this was going when I first listened to it. Obviously, that ending.
Do you notice
we
how
should start
everyone's
at the
keeping their
beginning.
powder dry right now? Everyone's just sort of looking at you like, we're not going to say what we think of it.
Well, we all like
You
it.
just
yeah?
keep talking.
We all like it.
All the suspense.
Nothing about this should work. Not like the first time I listened to it, I didn't like it, and people would always talk about Neverland, and I just didn't get it. And I can understand why I was like that, because listening to it again, nothing about this should work. It's too long. It's stupidly complicated. It's full of lore that should be boring. There's exposition for days. And I just bloody loved it. I don't know why this time around. I just loved it.
It's fucking brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this is up. I don't know if this is as good as Chance of Midnight, but it's just under. This is really, really good.
It's doing something totally different to Chimes, though, isn't it? Chimes is a proper self-contained story. And this is my other thing. Like, for Big Finish that I really, really like, they're usually like the smaller character pieces or the weirder out there ones. They're never like the big epics with Time Lords and stuff. This one just, I don't know why it works.
Don't
I
you
can't
think it marries the two, though? Here, there are big, and I want to talk about the ideas in this one. There are massive, like, mind-expanding ideas in this, but it never forgets to have a heart. It's always focused on Charlie and the Doctor and Charlie's relationship. So there's like some human interest as well. It's a thing that's absolutely missing in every Nick Briggs script, is we care about the people involved. So there's a reason to keep listening.
Well, we've had all of these clues peppered throughout the whole, like, last 2 series, really, since Storm Warning. So it's got a lot to try and wrap up and explain. And that first episode is a lot of just explanation. And yeah, it shouldn't work, but it does. I wasn't bored by this. It wasn't just the Time Lordy stuff, people just talking about Time Lordy stuff. But it wasn't. It was all this stuff that you've been invested in throughout the season with Charlie and the Web of Time, and they reference all of that stuff. It does actually, you want to know what happens, and it sort of builds up the anticipation and the...
It's satisfying.
Yeah.
And I think after all the build-up, that's a fucking miracle.
Yeah.
You know?
I was genuinely so like in the chunks that I was listening to it, if I wasn't listening to it, I was genuinely gagging to hear what happened, even though I know I've listened to it before and I know the stuff. I was just really soaked up in it. I thought it was brilliant.
The first half an hour, so we listened to the first episode on the beach, right? And it was bloody freezing.
It was absolutely
But there's
freezing.
no way I was leaving the beach until that first disc was over.
Can we go?
And I thought the first half an hour, all the bits, that fantastic pre-credit sequence with the Matrix and the sound design in that was phenomenal. I was like, I don't know who's done this. There's a diseased mind that's put this together, but it sounds amazing. You got the war TARDISes around the Doctor's TARDIS. That wonderful scene where the Doctor's trying to send off Charlie to the greatest shindig in the galaxy.
The year-long party.
And then the agency that she has where she turns around and says, no, I'm taking responsibility for this. We're going to Gallifrey. We're going to see the Time Lords. So I'm not going to do it again. All of that characterization and all of that, it just felt huge. It felt like a proper season finale.
Projection never changes. The web of time in shreds, time collapsing in on itself, the fall of Gallifrey, the corruption of the oldest civilization. Chaos and anarchy loosed upon us all, a new order. A twisted one.
Yes, I saw it. I saw what might happen to Gallifrey, to her leaders. But if this vision is supposed to make me recant, to make me see the folly of my choices in the past, to approve the unmaking of a single life for the sake of order, Romana, I won't. The choice is yours. Go back in time, erase my deeds, the last few months of my life, blast me from the whole of history even. Maybe I made a mistake, taking Charlie with me, but I stand by my mistakes, and by my promises too. If you destroy Charlie, rightly or wrongly, then I won't let you do it with a clean conscience. There has to be another way.
Yeah, it really did, in a way that I just don't think many stories of Big Finish do. And considering you got all these box sets and all these, like,
they try, don't they? They do try.
Yeah, they try. And so the occasional one, like Day of the Master in Ravenous, did do it well. But like, yeah, this was weird, just sensational, but it shouldn't.
But it's still the few characters. You got Romana and Vansell and the Doctor. You know, a lot of that first episode just standing there explaining. It's not going way over the top like nowadays. I think you'd have all the epic orchestral action and all that. There's not that much action in that whole first episode.
No,
there's not. And there's that sequence with the Matrix and the Romana and the Daleks and stuff. That's really good. But it just takes its time. And no, it didn't feel like I was sitting there for like an hour and 10 minutes in that. It just flew by so quickly.
I do think the second half
maybe a little bit, but still, there's still plenty in there.
The only bit that dipped for me in the second half is when Romana and the Doctor are getting back on the ship, and it just takes like 20 odd minutes for her to sort of get in the Matrix, and that was the only bit where
when they were asking about and trying to pretend they were just getting on with repairing it.
Yeah, that was the only bit for me.
Their chemistry is great, isn't it? Paul McGann and Lala Wars.
Brilliant, yeah.
And you can see why she then obviously goes on with the Gallifrey series. This is where that idea starts, I think, and you can tell that's going to be a success. If you'd have mooted the
Gallifrey series pre-Neverland, I'd have said, oh, how boring. No. After listening to that, I'm like, oh my God, this could work. You know?
Do you know what? Like, I think so much Time Lord stuff nowadays is just, like arrogant arsehole, is like, hates the Doctor's way of life, stickler for reals. It wasn't like they were still Time Lords, but even like Vansell, Romana, they're not like that. They've got a bit more intelligence. They're a bit more three-dimensional than what you get all the time in current Big Finish, which is a one-dimensional bad guy Time Lord.
Yeah, even like isn't the Time Lord stuff in like Dark Eyes not particularly memorable?
Your happy-go-lucky lifestyle Doctor.
But we've met Vansell was in the Sirens of Time, and I think he's in the Apocalypse element as well. So it's nice you've got Big Finish's own continuity sort of coming through as well in this.
I love that bit.
I've got to say, I think it really helped me this time around knowing about the Apocalypse element. Even though it's not that much of a thing, I think just the general backstory really helped for Neverland.
And speaking of Vansell, okay.
Goodness sake.
No.
Wait till you hear this.
No, because we were talking about Vansell.
I'm telling you.
And I was like, what's he call him? When
Nosebone.
Nosebone or something. And then the Doctor says, well, I like to call him or toast rack. And I was like, isn't that really rude? Isn't that like...
He thinks that's a sexual reference.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it?
And then he goes, "Here, look at this." He pulls up what's that thing called? The
Urban Dictionary.
It's some dreadful gay sexual reference. Oh, the Doctor, you filth bag.
It is. That always stuck out in my mind. Why does he call him toast rack?
What would a gay man do for it to be called toast racking? That even boggles my mind.
I was like, I can't believe you said that.
How do you not know?
I can't believe the Doctor said that to him. That was so rude.
I think it's all right. I'm going to try and get this back on track here.
Where to go?
Disgusting, honestly. Why invite you along? There are 3 magnificent central performances in this, and I'm going to go in reverse order. I think you've got Lala Ward, who is brilliantly bossy, and she makes a great Lord President and has brilliant chemistry with Paul McGann. Then I think you've got some of the best ever writing for Paul McGann's Doctor, because he's desperate in this story, and seeing the Doctor sort of improvise when he's desperate is really interesting. But he's really funny as well. He's got lots of witty lines in this. But best of all, India Fisher, who has to play a dual role of the villain and Charlie, and she gets huge long monologues that she has to deliver, tons of exposition. I mean, I can't remember a time where a companion had this much focus in a story.
And I bet she wasn't grumpy at the end of recording.
No, I bet
she's genuinely faultless in this. And I think I liked her the first time around, but not loved her. But I mean, this time around, I've took to her so much more. Really, her entire character and everything, she's just played so well.
I genuinely think the bit at the end where she says, "Doctor, I love you, but you've got to kill me." That's so pat. It could be so pony. And it's really touching just because we've come to love that relationship and their performances together. And you just don't want it to end.
No, I think Charlie is still the best 8th Doctor companion.
Luke?
She's still my favourite. I know you probably don't agree.
Honestly, beforehand, I wouldn't have said that. I even though she's not really in it much, I really do like Molly from Dark Eyes, which is not a popular choice at all.
No, the Doctor.
Oh god,
the Tardy Box.
I like Lucy Miller.
No, see, I don't
She's my
like. I'm not.
I do. After listening to these, Charlie's the best. I think.
All right.
I'm not huge.
Yes, she's going.
I'm not huge on Lucy Miller.
Neither see.
No.
Yeah.
Sheridan Smith, folks.
She's good. She's a good actress, but
and she's good. She's better than Helen.
Oh yeah,
and she's much better than Raki Thakrar as Bliss.
See, I'm a bit torn on Bliss. I think she is very sort of different, and she's got a different energy, and that's quite exciting to listen to. But there's just no writing there for her at all. She's just lost in these Time War stories.
Well, and they can't really use her anymore, can they? She's gone off to do other things now.
Yeah, that's why
movies and stuff.
Introduce Cat. Don't get us.
Whereas with Liv, I think Nicola Walker's a brilliant actress, but she really underplays that role. I think sometimes she's really moving and stuff. What's the one with the phone calls?
Absent Friends.
Yeah, she could be really fantastic in these things. But a bit
the more I've listened
muted.
to her, the more I've liked her, if I'm honest. But they've just been here for too long. You know, there is just too much of, well, I say a good thing. There's too much of just a normal thing.
What this has to do with Neverland, I have no idea.
Going back to that, well, this is wrapping up Charlie's arc, and at the time, you don't know, is this the end of Charlie? What's going to happen? This is all to be discovered, isn't it? So you don't know where this is going if you're first listening to this.
Yeah, so it's very exciting.
You know, so the
that's
stakes
what I was
they?
thinking. I was thinking, what was this like for you listening the very
epic.
first time? Because by the end, you've got sort of, the Web of Time thing is being resolved at a great personal cost. You've had 2.5 hours of this, and then after this you're getting 3.5 hours of another massive.
But you don't know. I mean, this Neverland came out, and then Zagreus wasn't out for 18 months after that cliffhanger. as well.
In a way,
So
I think
all
that's
that
quite a
time
savvy
to wait.
move, isn't it? To make people
What's
wait.
your reaction to the cliffhanger at the time, though? He obviously slaps Charlie, and then
I was like, what?
and then he says, I'm the nursery rhyme. I'm going to take all
It's
that.
that last word when he goes, Zagreus! It's like, I think I had goosies.
And then there's that like bit at the end. I always think that the music's gonna come in literally after he says the grace, and there's like a few moments, just a little bit of a noise first, and then it kicks in. You're like, what? And I was like, is there going to be something after the credits? Is there anything else? And I wasn't expecting that to happen at the time. I thought it would just get all wrapped up, and we would end up where, happily we're off for more adventures or something. I don't know. I wasn't expecting there to be another cliffhanger there.
We wish that's what happened. We ended up in a fucking divergent universe.
That whole choice to me screams confidence. You've got this massive, big, epic story here, and then at the end of that, it's like, no, you've not even heard where this is going yet. That must have been so exciting. Because
it really, really was. I think
I've gone straight into Zagreus since this. There was no way I couldn't listen. That's a
commitment. And Zagreus, when just went getting that and thinking, right, where is this going to go now? And you open up the CD as Zagreus, and there's a picture of John Pertwee in there. You're like, what's going on here?
Are you sure it's John Pertwee? I can't hear it.
And then that's a whole other thing. And then Charlie is the main character in Zagreus for me. You follow her story through and all of her adventures, she was at that time the main companion there, going into the 40th anniversary.
Between Doctor Who coming off the air and the time of Neverland, TV had come on in leaps and bounds, and arc-based seasons with big climactic finales and massive cliffhangers it was all the rage. But Doctor Who had never done that before, and this was Doctor Who's first stab at doing that, and it was just fucking epic. Unfortunately, I don't think from Neverland to Zagreus we've ever gone off a cliff. We've never gone to such a zenith and then fallen such a height. I mean, I think a lot of people, and I seem to remember at the time there was a lot of talk, they were so excited for Zagreus after the strength of Neverland and that ending, and they abandoned Big Finish altogether and went, oh, what is this shit?
Obviously, you'll discuss it when you get there. But I'm 2 hours in, and it's standing up a lot better when I re-listen. I mean, in the exact same way that Neverland did.
You entice me.
I think Zagreus is all right. I mean, I wouldn't probably do it all in one go. I would have a bit of a break in between each episode, but I don't know. Zagreus is all right, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when you re-listen.
Do you know what the savviest move was, I thought, in this? Because I was, on first watch, I was thinking, Charlie survived the R101 and she was this pivotal person in history, and that's why time's out of wonk. And I thought the best idea in a story full of great ideas was, let's say Charlie was utterly irrelevant. Charlie as a person, she is just a person, and the fact that she survived, that's how they got through into this universe. I thought that was a much better way of ending that story than her. I don't know, she was going to go on to be president of the earth and create,
Yeah. I really like that, because at the beginning I was like, but why? Like, the Doctor saves people all the time, so why is he? But yeah, it's just they've just used that. It could have been anyone. They've just used that as a breach to get through. I think what I really, really enjoyed, especially in part one, was just the whole traveling to Neverland bit. It really sounded like they were on a proper adventure. They were pioneers going out to this really barren, out there world, because it's on audio as well. It's just, your visuals is just, I mean, for me, it was all like white and like dust going across, and then it was just really ethereal and otherworldly, and I just really bought into it. The whole anti-time thing, I bought into the whole thing,
and the idea of the bits of the TARDIS or the sort of that is a great idea.
But Alan Barnes is a comic strip writer, so he's used to thinking with big visuals, and I think he does bring that even later on when I think he's off the boil. He's still doing sort of big visual ideas like that. It's really interesting because we're all listening to these stories, but we're seeing kind of completely different. It's so personal to each person. Because I was seeing a sort of thunder-swept landscape with all these big black shards of glass, because they were saying it was like a forest of spikes.
Yeah.
That's what I was. What did you see?
Yeah, I was see sort of grey with spikes. A bit of a blue haze, like on the blue of the cover as well.
Yeah, I think it's the cover that's made me think like the white sort of.
That's a good cover as well, isn't it? They've come on.
Yeah, I mean, it might be another reason why they're fondly remembered. The covers are brilliant for all these stories.
And of course, you get the wonderful moment at the end where the Doctor gets to sacrifice himself, which I always love it when he does that. He gets a big speech.
Yeah, they're just really good.
And we have Don Warrington as Rassilon coming in. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I actually really, really like his Rassilon. The cliffhanger is Rassilon's back from
He's
the
like
dead.
hologram turns up or something, doesn't it?
And I didn't remember that. I didn't remember if he was alive or not, or what was going on. So the twist that it's not actually his coffin, but anti-time, that really worked. Really enjoyed that. I mean, possible spoilers for the future of where it goes, but I was more like, oh my god, Rassilon's nice. Because I swear he doesn't end up nice.
Because originally, I dropped in the last episode, originally Christopher Lee was approached to play it, and apparently Christopher Lee's agent laughed Gary Russell out of the office and said,
well, you got to try these things.
I mean, Christopher Lee's done some pretty shit work. Don't turn your nose up at Doctor Who, mate. But he's certainly better than Mum Ra, the Ever Living, that turned up in Hell Bent. Do you remember?
Yeah, terrible.
Well, in this, with the hologram, I imagine him looking like the head in the Five Doctors. I imagine him looking like that.
I imagine Don Warrington.
No, I don't imagine Don Warrington. I imagine the Five Doctors guy.
I think he's got such a brilliant voice for Rassilon.
Yeah,
it works for me.
And like Paul McGann, it's a very sort of seductive voice, isn't it? It's really easy on the ear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Show me your hands. I mean, what else can you say about this? I think it's one of those stories that kind of has got it all.
Yeah.
It's got all the big stuff. It's got all the small stuff. It's got great performances. A second, just to mention the sound design on this.
Oh, that's so good.
Really, really good. It's Alistair Locke, who I constantly have a hard on for on this thing. Every time Alistair Locke, he does the One Doctor, you're in for a treat listening to that.
He's done a lot up until this point,
some of the best ones as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Like, I think Briggsy is very good.
It was another element of being able to buy into the world just because the sound design was brilliant.
Like, are we at a point now with Big Finish where the sound design is always good?
It's more consistent, isn't it?
I think that the last time I heard anything where I was like, oh, God, was the Mags trilogy. I think some of those were
the only bad bit of sound design that I can think of next is Zagreus and the John Pertwee stuff, which is you cannot hear what he's saying at all.
No.
Whose idea was that?
I think Big Finish now, like, everything's a bit more consistent, isn't it? So nothing particularly stands out. The story's a bit more...
But it's more... I think we've said this before. It's just so epic now. All that orchestral stuff, it's too much. Whereas even in this, you've got the right balance, where it's still sort of small enough and contained enough to enjoy. I don't know. It's just too. It's trying to be a big new series soundtrack every single time. Big epic now, and I think that's too much.
But I think Briggs, who does the music
these earlier
in
ones.
this, he underplays the music in some of these scenes. And the bit where she's talking about the Doctor being Peter Pan, and the bit at the end where they say, I love you to each other, the music really comes down.
Yeah. It's not, but nowadays that wouldn't be the case. I think it would be this huge...
Yeah.
Too
it's the
much.
same with the writing, isn't it? And just the general ideas. It's all epic, end of the universe all the time.
So it is literally like we get 3 releases a week with almost the end of the universe, isn't it?
But when they're exploring, it's just those few characters. It's like Romana the Doctor and those like 2 guards, and that's it. Where I don't think that would be. I think nowadays you'd have the full fleet and an army, and I don't know, they bring everybody, and it'll be this huge thing. Whereas actually, you just got these few characters, and you can just.
So you were talking on the Isle of Scorpion one about the debate, between if you bring Aramen in, then does it take away from the TV series? And does it matter that,
Oh,
like, because you've got all
please chip in.
yeah, because you've got all these like new stories. We always probably want new stories, but does it matter? It takes away. And my answer's like no. You'd always rather have more, but like I do enjoy them more if they can sit in my head well as part of the franchise. There's a lot of Big Finish that to me it just doesn't. It's just a bonus thing, but it never happened. It's not something I consciously think about. It's just rationalized in the brain like that. Anything like the big epics, that I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but like, when like right now, the Once and Future thing, it's like, nah, didn't happen. But like, of course, I want to hear it. I want that story. That's great, but it's just a bonus thing. But this is more enjoyable because this happens in my head. This is where the Eighth Doctor goes. And I think Big Fish are just going to struggle with that more and more as time goes on.
Is there a difference between a good story that didn't happen and a bad story that you wish didn't happen?
No, the bad stories are usually enjoyable, aren't they? In a weird way.
There's very few Big Finishes are. So, like, we've done 30-odd main ranges now, and there's only been maybe 2 where I've said, that's so boring. I just couldn't listen to that again.
Yeah. I mean, they do exist, and it's the boring ones that really, really pain you because they're...
Dreamtime. Oh, you haven't heard that one. That's very boring.
That's terrible. Mm.
Yeah. You've got Roof of the World coming up with Peter Davidson.
Oh, God, that's awful. Yeah.
Oh,
That's a waste
I
of
can't even
time.
remember that.
Roof of the World, though, RMM gets, I don't know, something about her father or something. Or
Oh, does she die?
up on the...
Don't they think she's dead?
Yeah, I think so. And then
Yeah.
she's like, is she some kind of ghost thing? Like, oh,
The fella who wrote that's in prison, you know.
yes. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, no, anyway.
Would you like to hear some fascinating
Not for
facts
real.
about Neverland?
Yes.
Yes,
We've been going 25 minutes
Right.
about this one now, with a few diversions, of course.
It is the epic, though, isn't it?
It deserves it. So there is one person who is damning Neverland with faint praise, and that is Alan Barnes himself, who is quoted as saying, "It needs a damn good prune," which is what you said, it's too long. Big Finish's weakness is that there's no read-through and no rehearsal. Even if it had just been the night before, I could have ironed out the rough patches and streamlined the story.
Yeah,
So,
but can't
I
you,
wouldn't lose much, though.
but can't you edit that after they've recorded it all?
Yeah.
No,
Like,
we've recorded it. It's going in.
like, it's not too late.
They must edit like Finish Big.
It's all going in. Yeah. Hey, listen to this. You wouldn't believe it. You two are disgusting. What has happened to you two? Honestly.
Taste the rack.
At least wait until we press stop. Apparently, Omega was considered to be included in this in a sequence in Gallifrey's Dark Times, which was excised completely. And I think that's probably for the best.
I don't think it would have took anything away or more. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Daleks are in it for a little bit as a Matrix thing. It would have just been like that, wouldn't it? So.
Alan Barnes wrote a comic strip called The Final Chapter for Doctor Who magazine, which was about Rassilon and Gallifrey's past, a story, he says, that was so bad he didn't write any fiction for a year. He refused to let him write for 12 months. He said it was so awful. And with Neverland, he wanted to lean into Time Lord lore and redeem himself. He calls it an exorcism.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did.
And he succeeded.
It does really well. Who starts writing the Gallifrey series? Is that Alan Barnes?
He writes some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Imperiatrix is mentioned in this, and that's a big thing that comes into the Gallifrey series. It's mentioned.
Yeah, Alan Barnes, you said he was an ideas man. I totally agree with that. There's never been an Alan Barnes Big Finish audio where it's been boring. It might be a bit confusing or a bit messy or something, but you're always quite interested. It always has a big grand idea in it.
But then remember, you haven't heard any of those Seventh Doctor ones yet. All right.
Yeah.
He did write what was that Mags one? An
I've
alien
not heard the
werewolf
Mags
in
ones.
London.
No, well,
Daleks Among Us. Oh,
he's script
dreary.
editor for the last however many years.
No, he's script editor for about 15 years.
15, yeah, there you go.
What you
That's
should be
a lot.
is script editor for about 5 years. But anyway.
He does, because he's done Stormwarden, and he does The Girl He Never Was.
Well, he can do absolute bangers.
Yeah.
But I think if you've written that many stories, then the chances are there's going to be some dreck in there as well.
Where does his bad stuff rate to like Nick Briggs's bad stuff? Who's worse at bad stuff?
Oh no, I think Barnes's are much better. Barnes's highs are way higher than Briggs's highs, I think.
What about his lows?
About on par. Or maybe Barnes is 50-50 if Briggs is 70-30.
Yeah, okay.
And John Dorney is 100%.
100. Yeah.
But mind you, I think Jonathan Morris is not far behind, given how many stories he's done.
Yeah, you're a bigger fan than me with Jonathan Morris, I think.
Oh,
He's slightly more Justin Richardsy for me in the way that he's better than Justin Richards, but like the patterns are the same. I don't think he really does that much different. He has a lot about ghosts. A lot of his stories are about ghosts.
We should have written Neverland then, shouldn't he? The very last quote I've got is from Alan Barnes, who says that the biggest influence for this story was Isabella, his daughter, who died the day she was born. And he says that's what Neverland was about, dying young and how we remember those lost before their time. He's quoted as saying, I wasn't writing about Isabella directly, but I was writing about my grief and dealing with my anger. And do you know what? I think it's one of his most heartfelt scripts, this one. And I can hear it in there.
Yeah.
I think if you can pour a bad experience like that into your work, it's what most artists do, isn't it?
Yeah. And it is like lost spirits, lost souls.
Wow.
But obviously, I wouldn't recommend to listen to this just on its own. I think you do need to have some of the earliest stories.
This is not a jumping on point, folks.
This is not. No, this is not the perfect jumping on point at all.
I am really happy that it could work because you invited me on to talk about Invaders, Chimes, and Seasons. I'm really happy it worked out this way around because I sort of know about them three, and I don't think anything would have changed. Whereas this has just made me really like Charlie, really like the finale, and I've gone straight to the greatest.
No, then you're going to go into the Divergent universe. In fact, keep going. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, no, I actually might. I definitely want to do Scherzo after it because
that is one of my all-time favourites. That is up there.
You not heard that?
Yeah, no, I have.
I love that one. Oh my god!
But I think I might just carry on straight for until I hit a bad one.
Talk about
then it goes to Creed of the Crowman, and then it's just like that's it, isn't it?
I remember thinking it was all right.
Goodbye, Lider, my dear.
God, all the Lider stuff. Yeah, we're gonna do when we get to there. We're gonna do a tally of how many times he has a flashback about killing. It's just like every story.
What's after Creed of the Crowman?
Natural History of Fear. That's a banger. That is.
See, I didn't get that at all first time around, but that one is different to Time of the Daleks in a way. I thought I'll definitely listen to that in the future, and I'll get it, and it'll be good. Time of the Daleks just doesn't have that to it.
And then you've got the Twilight Kingdom, so it's a really sort of up and down. It's a bit like McGann's first season; it's really up and down. But the highs are high, and the lows are cavernous.
Yeah, and then and then it carries on, doesn't it? And then Paul McGann doesn't get much happier, does he?
No.
As it goes on.
No. Apparently, it was not at a good point of his life at the time either. So you could hear it as well in the stories. Well, what's next?
What are we doing next?
Well,
I totally forgot.
I'm sorry, Luke. You're gonna have to listen to a little bit of this now. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to do the chronology bit, but it's really easy.
Oh, I love the chronology. Yeah.
Well, it's like
it's done.
It's pretty much done, but let's go into it anyway. We've got 3 stories that follow on after each other, and they follow on from the previous 3. So there's literally not much else to say. That this is the season. So Invaders from Mars, Chimes of Midnight, Seasons of Fear. What's it called again? Embrace the Darkness, Time of the Daleks, and Neverland. That is our season.
That literally took you 15 seconds.
Well, we might get stories that are slotted in between at some point because there's that new box set, The Further Adventures of Charlie Pollard's Adventuress.
Featuring the sequel to Sword of Orion, Heart
which
of Orion.
everybody was waiting for. We waited 10 years for that, or however long, of course. So that's got to go somewhere. And there's stuff like Living Legend, the freebie one.
Oh,
as
that
well.
one in Classic Doctor's New Monsters?
Yes, yeah, because any extra Eighth Doctor and Charlie stories have to fit before Neverland and all of this stuff is resolved, because otherwise we go into the Divergent Universe, and then after Careers, it's the girl who never was.
Do you realise what they're doing?
We've got to sort of fit them in without ruining the story arc, really. So you don't want too many in there, do you?
We've just been talking about them squeezing stories in between a tiny little gap. Now they're squeezing things in their own bloody gaps.
They are, yeah.
It's because Big Finish will never end.
that suffers in itself, though, doesn't it? Because they can't ever do anything that big in that box set, because the series has always got to be bigger around it. So
and you know the outcome of those characters, so
yeah,
it's sort of fun adventures, but there's no stakes.
Which is why they've got to invent a new character for the Eighth Doctor pre-Charlie. Coming out soon, Audacity.
The audacity of it. And that is Jay Griffiths from Bugs, who I absolutely loved that show when I was in the 90s.
She's brilliant, and she's in the Zygon 2-part. She gets killed, doesn't she?
Yeah,
that actress.
Yeah, what a waste.
Yeah. Anyway, and that is the chronology done for now.
I'm so used to listening to you go on for about 5 minutes.
Well, we're still
about where you're going to slip things in.
We're still so early on.
Pardon the pun.
It's
one of the things that really made me fall for you in the first place was listening to all this chronology stuff, because I don't really have much interest in it. I'm assuming you do, though, Luke.
Yeah, I do quite like it. Yeah, I think it's nice to know someone's putting the effort in.
Do you like to know where things are squeezed in?
Yeah, especially when it comes to Paul McGann.
Get in line, mate. Well, if you'll indulge me, let's head back into. By the way, can I ask you a question? Did you ever use Doc Oho Reviews website?
I did. I read Doc Oho's before knowing it was you. So I'm still not totally convinced it is you.
Revisiting them, he's a fucking drama queen, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it was when I was listening to Jago and Lightfoot's was maybe the first time I stumbled on. So it would only have been like a year beforehand, so like 2020, something like that. And I used to read and disagree with everything you said about Jago and Lightfoot.
Yes, great.
No, I didn't.
You should have known we were going to have some great commentaries coming up after that then.
Well, it's Doc Oho, isn't it?
Hey ho, hey ho. Okay, so Time with the Daleks. I've only done a couple of quotes for each. I don't want to take your time up too much. Doc Oho says, although I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, what bullshit. I've never been a Look at Doc Oho trying to sound like he's really literate.
Play then? What's your favourite?
Oh, I do like Taming of the Shrew, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I know that one, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Man's a writer.
Yeah. Although I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, I don't think this scenario is even remotely feasible, says Doc Oho. And when the Doctor gushes about Shakespeare, he is merely a Mary Sue for Justin Richards. And I still think that's true. When that Doctor has a speech about Shakespeare, that's just Justin Richards talking.
I thought it was weird that, like, you've got this story about Shakespeare, but it's quite specific, isn't it? They're not like the usual Shakespeare quotes that people would actually know. They're like quite in that you'd have to really like Shakespeare to get the quotes.
Oh, it was quite nice to hear Don Warrington say, "Cry havoc and let's slip the dogs of war." I don't know why I started with Time of the Daleks. I should have started with Embrace the Darkness.
Embrace the Darkness.
You can edit around this.
Time travel.
Embrace the Darkness. Well, time travel. You were reading me before we met. It's very Stephen Moffat. Embrace the Darkness. It's especially annoying that after a climactic ending, Briggs reveals there was absolutely no danger whatsoever. And I think we can all agree with that. It's very annoying.
What do you... Oh, yeah, because you think the same about Hyde, don't you, on TV? You're not a big fan of the fact the ending is that there wasn't any danger, really.
I've been beaten into submission with Hyde because his greatest fans were sitting right next to me.
It is really good.
Yeah. But isn't it, have I just imagined this, but the bit at the end, doesn't it like this thing come out of a pothole or something and be like, oh, it's just us?
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
And
Isn't
it's
there a
got a
bit like the
stupid
lid's coming
comedy
off of
voice as
something
well.
and he's like, hello. No, I've just imagined that.
No, they're on a scanner screen. They're on a spaceship.
The
Yeah.
Solarian
Says,
or the
"Hello."
Solarian.
Yeah.
We've been looking for
He's like,
historical
"Hello."
artifacts. Isn't it?
In my
Yeah.
head, he opened up a thing and went,
There
hello.
Oh my God.
The bottle
Look what I said about audio. We're all seeing something different. Jesus Christ.
Whack-a-mole.
And then Dr. Who also said, this is still the humble beginning stage for Nick Briggs. So clearly he thought he went on to greater things.
Creatures of Beauty did a lot of heavy lifting by the sounds of it.
They really did. I think I'll give that a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but is
you
that
know.
the only reason? Because it's just not in the linear order? Did he just
No,
like write the
no.
script and drop
No,
it
I
on the
genuinely
floor?
think
and
it
just...
is a brilliant story.
If anyone dared to venture into the Ravagers that Nick Briggs did recently, that was a non-linear story over 3 hours. I've sworn quite a lot on this one. I thought I better hold back that one. 3 fucking hours, there you go. And, it was bloody tedious.
No.
Creatures of Beauty was dramatically satisfying.
Who has it? Is it Nissa got? She's got a knife. No?
Yeah,
Does Nissa
that's
have a
it,
knife?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Someone's
She's
got a
been
knife, that's
tortured
what I
or something.
remember.
Yeah, it's
she's got a
horrible.
scalpel or a
Someone's
knife,
like,
yeah.
she got a knife. That's what
That's
I
a
remember.
great story.
I re-listened to Ravagers and liked it a lot more when I realised
course
when I
you
could
did.
figure out what was going on. But it is very exposition of nothing.
I've not got
And then
that
at the
experience.
end, he's just like, "You're a nerd."
Oh,
It's so
God.
weird.
And what was the villain's name in that? Margot. You can't have a villain called Margot, for God's sakes. I kept seeing her from The Good Life. And sorry, when it comes to Neverland, Dr. Who says, I can't remember a companion. Oh, I said this today. I can't remember a companion ever being given this much focus, and India Fisher holds the story together beautifully. And then there's a bit of a long quote here. Neverland is a story with a wealth of mind-expanding ideas at its disposal, but whilst it's thrilling you with its possibilities, it never forgets to have a heart.
Ah,
That's true.
very well put, Doco Ho.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yes, he says thank you.
It's just reminded me, I want them to bring out Charlie Pollard Series 3. I hope they get around to doing that. I think
I've never had her on her own.
I think she's good on her own. They should do more for India Fisher, I think.
Yeah, I'm
really
more in
liked,
demand for Luke Malloy podcast reviews of Big Finish stories than I am for the further adventures of.
Oh, maybe they come back.
I hope
Yeah.
they do. They're fabulous.
One last point on Neverland. I've just remembered. I really liked the way they resolved the web of time thing of the Doctor saved the web of time was unraveling, but then the Doctor sacrificed himself, so the web of time's fixed again. So they just can't do anything about her. It was a nice little loop where it all came in. Yeah.
Do you know? I've got a quick question before we go on to the quiz. Do you think Charlie went on too long?
No, because I think her ending really works.
What, the ending with Colin Baker's Doctor?
Oh no, yeah.
The girl who
so
never was.
I never got there, but with Paul McGann, I think that's for a companion as big as her and as a companion that works as well as her. I think The Girl Who Never Was is a good
That's
end place.
great.
I don't think it's her that goes on too long. I think maybe the Divergent universe goes on a bit too long and stuff, but not necessarily her. But
I think you got like 3 chunks. You got that early Charlie, season 1 and 2, which I think is brilliant, and then you've got mid Charlie, which is like Divergent Universe, which is iffy. Then you've got a great little run, or mix, but kind of good after she comes back into our universe.
Terra Firma. Oh,
I love Terra Firma.
yeah, it's
That's
brilliant.
great. But then you've got Scaredy Cat as well.
Oh,
It's terrible. And what was that one? Something Inside, which is very boring.
oh yeah, with the cube.
And then she's got her run with Colin Baker, which I think is some of her best stuff.
Yeah, I need to get there. I do need to get there.
You didn't ask that question.
What did you ask?
Did Charlie Pollard go on too long?
No.
Well, that's a very succinct
because
answer.
I'm always for more Charlie.
No, because if you I think deep down if someone's gone on for too long. If you ask me, have Liv and Helen gone on for too long? It's an instant yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Charlie, I never had that feeling where it's like, yeah, I'm a bit done with you now.
But
I
they-
didn't have it with Lucy either. I
But
think Lucy went at the perfect time.
I do too. And Evelyn had the perfect amount of stories. She had about 25 stories. It was a good run.
But the thing is, though, I think it's not always the character. It's Big Finish just like working with people.
Yeah.
Therefore, they find enough excuses. Like Nicola Walker, I think they just like working with her.
Like Philippa Olivia.
And Philippa, yeah. So
almighty,
Hex,
they should have got rid of him earlier.
Spoiler, well, no spoilers, not spoilers. He sort of leaves, and he has a great ending, and then they just bring him back straight away and carry on, and there's no point. It just completely destroys the great ending he had, just for no reason. He just carries on, and you're like, that's too long. And okay, Maggie Stables, she died, so that's why there's only she could have
that's the only way out.
But that's the only way. And Sheridan Smith is just probably too busy, so otherwise she probably would have carried on as well. So actually, those two examples,
but with Maggie
where it's just
Stables,
enough, is not. It's actually
with Maggie really famous or die.
Yeah, basically. Otherwise, I'll just keep using them. And India Fisher, I don't know. Well, because Paul McGann was doing the other stuff. And Colin Baker had plenty of companions. She had her own series, but I'm sure they will bring her back again, or they'll do more stuff with her. So they, when they can let them go, or when it fits the story to let them go, I just think Big Finish are just like, let's just keep working with them. It doesn't matter. Let's just carry on. Beyond
what's really odd is
they did bring Sheridan Smith back as well. And they called it The Further Adventure of Lucy Miller 1.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a plan there.
Yeah.
They, with Maggie Stables, they were savvy enough. I guess, I don't know if they knew she was ill, but they gave her leaving story. And then they kept doing stories with her that was within her run that led up to her leaving story.
I think they should do that with a lot of them, though, actually.
Yeah.
Especially
the Doctors.
They should look, all of those companions that just don't, especially all the Colin Baker ones, that he's had loads, like Flip and Constance. They should do all their leaving stories as soon as possible and then go back and fill them in. Yeah, and then it doesn't matter. Then we've got a nice continuity rather than just these random ones.
But then that takes it away for me, for what I was saying before. Like, you're not going anywhere.
I know, but then you want the complete collection at the end.
Well, look, I've been wanting to say this for a long time, you know.
Yeah?
Are you ready, Luke Malloy, for some audacious oral?
Oh, yeah.
The audacity. Words come up quite a lot today. Well, who's going first?
How are we doing this?
I think we should do Luke's question, my question, then your question.
Who's answering them?
Well, the other two that aren't.
Oh, we just sort of...
we're
just trying
Score
to...
it that way.
Jump in there.
Yeah. Come on then, Luke.
Okay.
Okay, am I going first, yeah? Embrace the darkness. What does ROSM stand for?
Oh, fuck.
Rescue.
Operations.
System.
Module.
Oh, it's not system, but the rest is right.
Rescue.
Service?
Operation. Service module.
No.
Solarian.
What is it?
Security.
Oh.
Very good, though. No, yeah. I give you that.
Do you know?
Well, I remember because Olenza, she says that, doesn't she? She's like, "Oh, it's a rescue. It's come to rescue us."
Okay, so my question for you two is: spell Sumerian system.
Ooh, CIMMERINN.
Yes! Oh, sorry, you. Okay, go.
No.
Oh, okay.
I can't.
That is
do
spot
that.
on, Luke.
Yes,
God, you didn't waste that education, did you?
My question is, what is the type of TARDISes that the Doctor avoids at the beginning of episode 1? What type are they?
40.
70.
Bugger
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay. What's your next one then, Luke? Come on. Give it to us, baby.
What is the earliest year that a time portal connects to?
50.
The Roman times. No, it's the Roman times. Not 1572. They go to the Roman times. AD.
It's AD, yeah.
Oh.
AD.
I can only remember 15.
The
whatever.
Roman times. Okay, AD
Whoever's
79.
Wins.
Oh, I was going to say, 1572, but...
Yeah, Joe wins. It was 305 AD.
Bugger it. All right.
But that's the one where the Dalek pops out and sees the
Of
thing.
course.
I'll take a point.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many mirrors and clocks are in the time machine that brings through the Daleks?
Is it like 112?
Okay, what are you saying?
I was going to say 240. I don't know why.
Okay, and how many clocks?
Oh. I think I'll say 112. One of them. I think one of them.
Yeah. I thought it was 200.
You are way out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Luke's the closest though. 111.
Oh.
And
Counting the
16.
master clock.
And 16. I was. And 1600 clocks.
Oh.
Okay.
It's 111 mirrors and 1600 clocks.
This didn't come up in your facts, but didn't Justin Richards say it was like a thing of mirrors? And then he was like, well, that doesn't really work well on audio, so I'll make it clocks as well, just so we've got an audio clue. That's the only reason.
And then the sound
It's
designer was like,
clocks.
piss off. I've spent ages doing those mirror sound effects. Wow.
Time of the Daleks. Oh, yes. Okay. Which other Big Finish story features Shakespeare himself?
The Kingmaker.
Yes.
Oh, bugger. I didn't get there quick enough.
I knew that you knew that.
Oh, that's a great one, isn't it? The Kingmaker.
That is a great one.
What a
Where does
corker.
that fit into this?
God knows.
We can't wait for the chronology on that.
Oh, my God.
Good luck with that one. I think Chris Eccleston turns up in that one, doesn't he?
The annoying thing, I love the Kingmaker, but because that guy sounds like Christopher Eccleston, I can't get that out of my head, and it ruins the whole story for me the whole time. I just picture him.
Honestly, thought it was meant to be.
Yeah, because then there's a reference as well of someone looking like him.
Yeah.
And
No, he makes an appearance in the story.
Yeah, but it's not the guy that it's.
No, but the inference is that Chris Eccleston has been in the story.
That confuses it even more, and it's just ruined the whole story for me. It really has.
Never mind a witty dialogue.
I can't imagine. I just
plot.
imagine Chris Eccleston in a leather jacket throughout the whole of that story, just whatever that character is.
So you get one thing wrong, Big Finish. He's
I know.
out, right?
That's out of my.
Russell T Davies said it's that you wear a silly hat and it ruins the entire show. It's true. Doctor Who's a weird show like that.
Yeah. And the fans are even weirder.
Yeah, that is true. Neverland. Okay. Which one of these events do the Matrix voices not reference?
Oh, what a great question.
Okay, so we've got the admission of Peladon into the Galactic Federation.
That's definitely mentioned.
The election of Mavic Chen as Guardian of the Solar System.
That's definitely mentioned.
The Mavellan Dalek stalemate in 4590. And the establishment of the Cult of Morbius in 5725.3.
Oh, I don't remember that one either. I don't remember the Mavellans or Morbius.
Oh, fuck, it's one of the last two. Mavellans or Morbius? Mavellans or Morbius?
I'm going to say Morbius.
I'm going to say Mavellans.
It's Mavellans.
Okay. The Jovians celebrate which birthday and how long does their party go on for? So the Doctor states that this race celebrates a certain birthday and the party goes on for a certain amount of time.
It's a year long.
It's definitely a year, but I don't know.
No, he says he's going to let us stay there only for a year, but it's longer than that.
Well, I don't know then.
Yeah.
No?
No.
So it's their billionth birthday and it's 1,000-year-long party.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Fascinating, Captain.
Oh my god. Oh god, I can't read my writing. Hold on a second.
Prepare yourself for this sentence to start and end in different places.
Oh, okay, here we go. Which previous story in this season uses the fast return switch?
Oh, I know the answer to this.
It's Seasons,
Seasons
isn't it?
of Fear.
Yeah, Seasons of Fear, yes.
Okay. Oh, you got to count up your points.
I didn't count them up.
No, you got them all wrong.
Oh, okay, fine. I didn't win then.
You got 6 wrong. Luke, how many did you get right?
I wasn't counting. Was it?
I thought you were keeping them
Yeah,
records.
I you in your pen.
Yeah,
I just
me
did
too.
mine.
Oh.
I think Luke won that, actually.
Okay.
So well done, Luke.
Hey,
Thank
well
you.
done.
Your Big Finish knowledge is extreme.
I think you knew quite a few as well.
They were great questions, by the way.
Thank you. I used to write them for Lost on Gallifrey, didn't I?
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, the much lamented Lost on Gallifrey.
It's lost in the universe of anti-time.
Although, I've noticed you whoring yourself out on all the other podcasts, so there's still
it's
plenty
so
of.
great.
There's still plenty of. Yeah, it's all the fun and none of the editing.
Yeah, it's great to be a podcast for.
Okay, well, that wraps that up. Shall I say where we're going next?
Please, I'm riveted.
Well, I will tell you where we go. Well, we're doing a little mini episode after this where we are visiting 2 Big Finish talks back. So we're doing the 8th Doctor authors, and Paul McGann is interviewed as well.
He's a very dull interviewee. I am Paul John McGann.
Doctor number 8.
I think it's one of his really early interviews, though. He hadn't really done very much by then.
All I remember was the bit we heard. He goes to Indy Fisher goes, I've been doing fringe theatre. I've been doing musical theatre. He goes, what, you've been dancing? She goes, Paul, I can barely sing.
But then we are going on to the Excellis quadrilogy.
Oh, Christ.
I know nothing about that.
So that's Excellis Dawns, Excellis Rising, Excellis Decays, and the Bernice Summerfield Plague Herds of Excellis. Which is
Plenty
a
of
mouthful.
Excellising going on there.
So, which, is a bit
You've got
not my favourite.
Anthony Head is the villain. Iris Wildtime appears in 2 of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I've heard clips of Iris Wild. It doesn't sound up my street.
She's all right in her own series, actually. She's okay.
She's loud, obnoxious, and she loves men. She's right up my street.
They're sort of rip-offs of Doctor Who stories. It's basically what Iris stories are, aren't they? So, like, they're... I don't know, what's...
Play to the hilt. They do the 5 Doctors joke, loads of time. The 5 irises.
Yeah, stuff like that.
But it's all the shit monsters, so it's like the Zarbies and the Quarks.
That's quite good.
It's quite funny.
Yes, we should be going there.
Well, that's very exciting. Before we out, Luke, will you just please just throw a few mentions of podcasts you've done recently so people can seek you out should they wish to hear more?
Recently, it's probably the hamster ones from January when we did Listen and Let's Kill Hitler and A Good Man Goes to War when we clashed because you hate it and I love it.
Well, you did a Too Hot for TV.
How recent was that?
Well, I listened to it
That was
recently.
fairly
That's
recently.
probably
That
why.
came out fairly recently.
Was it? Yeah, no, I mean, I love Too Hot for TV.
That's amazing. isn't
Dylan Reese is just the best host. With you too, of course.
it? No. He's the best.
He's good.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he just carries it with such a bubble and flow. It's great.
What's wonderful
Yeah.
about him is he doesn't invite you on and insult you. He's very charming.
Yeah, he laughs at everything you say.
Oh, he does. He makes me feel like I'm the funniest man alive.
So that's great. And I've got my articles as well. So I've been doing the Ultimate Doctor Who story ranking, which is the modern stories from 2005 to 2017, counted down in my list with my stories and anecdotes and analysis and anything. Try and find an interesting ways to do a short little piece on each Doctor Who story. So we're actually quite near the end now. I imagine we'll be on like the top 10 when this goes out. So you'd be coming in the really juicy parts. But yeah, please do check that out as well.
It is magnificent. And you do find unusual and interesting things to say about those stories that I've never heard before. It's one of the best countdowns I've ever read. Go and check it out, everybody. It's terrific. So when we bring this out, can you just put a little link underneath?
Yes, yeah, I'll do that. Thank you. Thanks for having me on this. I mean, it's great to go on podcasts and talk about Doctor Who episodes, but like, it's always a bit hard. You always like repeating slightly on what people have said in the past. And if you listen to podcasts, you sort of know. What's been really nice about this is I've listened to so much Big Finish. And you can't talk about Big Finish with anybody, 'cause even if people are WWE fans, or even if the Big Finish fans, there's so much of it they've heard that bit and not that bit and this bit. It's really good to listen to 3 stories, a proper mixed bag as well, and just talk them out. So it's been really nice to be on.
Big Finish podcast are a bit scarce. I'm surprised we found an audience at all, if I'm honest.
I love it. It's proper. It's a proper USP. No one else is doing it. And you do it in such detail with the chronology. Doc Oho. It's great.
Stop.
We've set a task, haven't we?
I know. Oh, Jesus Christ. What,
Yeah,
a minute?
even I'm surprised that you're doing like every release. That is
flying into the fucking moon. Were you out with us in the usual way?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we are. Well, we will see you all next time, everyone. And don't forget
to finish
big.
Oh, you're so handsome.